My sister forced me to attend a family function, and it reunited our family after 15 years. I thought it would be just another boring family gathering, but I couldn't have been more wrong. At the event, I discovered a long-forgotten family secret that had kept relatives apart for 15 years. With my sister's help, we tried to bring everyone back together, and what happened next changed our family forever. I never liked family functions. My sister, Aisha, loved them. She knew everyone's birthdays, remembered every cousin's name, and somehow enjoyed spending entire weekends surrounded by relatives. Me? I'd rather stay home playing games or watching movies. One Thursday evening, I was relaxing in my room when Aisha barged in without knocking. "Guess what?" she said excitedly. I didn't even look up from my phone. "What?" "Uncle Tariq's daughter's engagement ceremony is next weekend." "Okay. We're going." I immediately sat up. "No, we're not." Aisha rolled her eyes. "Mom already said yes for both of us." "That's not how consent works." "It is in this family." I couldn't argue with that logic. The following week, preparations started. Mom was busy choosing clothes. Dad was arranging gifts. Aisha was making lists of relatives she wanted to meet. And I was trying to find excuses to avoid going. Unfortunately, none of them worked. The day of the function arrived. The banquet hall was enormous. Lights covered every wall. Music echoed through the building. Children ran everywhere. Relatives I hadn't seen in years suddenly remembered I existed. "Look how tall you've become. Do you remember me? Have you found a job yet?" The questions never stopped. I looked at Aisha. She was smiling and talking with cousins. I couldn't understand how she enjoyed this. Then something unexpected happened. An elderly woman sitting alone near the corner caught my attention. She looked familiar. Very familiar. But I couldn't remember where I'd seen her before. I walked toward her. As soon as she saw me, tears appeared in her eyes. "You're Ahmed's son," she whispered. I froze. Ahmed was my grandfather. The woman smiled sadly. "I haven't seen your family in nearly 15 years. At that moment, I realized this family function was about to reveal secrets I never knew existed. The elderly woman continued staring at me. For a moment, I wasn't sure what to say. "You knew my grandfather?" I asked. She smiled sadly. "Knew him? Ahmed was my older brother." My heart nearly stopped. "What?" I looked at her carefully. I had never seen her before. At least, I didn't think I had. The woman nodded. "My name is Shazia." The name sounded vaguely familiar. Then suddenly I remembered. Years ago, when I was a child, I had overheard my parents talking about someone named Shazia. Whenever the name came up, the conversation would immediately stop. I never understood why. "You are my great-aunt?" I asked. She nodded. "Yes." Before I could ask another question, my sister Aisha appeared beside me. "There you are," she said. Then she noticed the woman. Her expression changed instantly. "Aunt Shazia?" The elderly woman smiled. "You remember me." Aisha nodded. "Mom showed me old photographs." I looked between them. "Hold on. You know who she is?" Aisha looked uncomfortable. "A little." "What do you mean a little?" She avoided my eyes. That was when I realized something. Everyone in the family knew this story except me. And nobody wanted to explain it. The rest of the evening became unbearable. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Whenever I tried asking relatives about Aunt Shazia, they quickly changed the subject. Some pretended not to hear me. Others suddenly became interested in food. One uncle literally walked away in the middle of my question. It was ridiculous. By the time the function ended, I was frustrated. On the drive home, I finally confronted Aisha. What is going on? She looked out the car window. Nothing. Don't do that. Do what? Act like everything is normal. Aisha sighed. It's complicated. Then explain it. She remained silent. Mom and Dad exchanged nervous glances from the front seats. That made me even more suspicious. When we got home, I followed Dad into the living room. I want answers. Dad sat down heavily. It's late. I don't care. He rubbed his forehead. For several seconds nobody spoke. Finally Mom sat beside him. Maybe it's time. Dad nodded slowly. Then he began telling me a story I had never heard before. 30 years ago, our family had been completely different. Back then, my grandfather Ahmed owned a successful business. The family was close. Everyone lived nearby. Every weekend they gathered together. Then one decision changed everything. Aunt Shazia fell in love. That alone wasn't a problem. The problem was who she loved. The man came from a different social background. Many family members disapproved. My grandfather strongly opposed the relationship. Arguments became constant. Months turned into years. Eventually Aunt Shazia chose to marry the man anyway. The decision created a massive conflict. Things were said that should never have been said. Relationships broke apart. Family members took sides. Some supported her. Others supported my grandfather. By the time the wedding happened, half the family had stopped speaking to the other half. The damage never healed. Aunt Shazia moved away. Communication slowly disappeared. Years passed. Then tragedy struck. Her husband died unexpectedly after a serious illness. After that, she withdrew from almost everyone. The family wanted to reconnect. But by then the distance felt too large. 1 year became 5. 5 became 10. Then 15. Nobody knew how to fix things. I sat quietly as Dad finished speaking. The story wasn't what I expected. I had imagined something dramatic. Some huge betrayal. Some terrible crime. Instead, an entire family had been divided by pride. All those lost years. All those missed birthdays. All those family gatherings. Gone forever. Because nobody wanted to apologize. I looked at Dad. Did Grandpa ever forgive her? Dad stared at the floor. I think he wanted to. What does that mean? He talked about her often during his final years. The room became silent. Grandpa had passed away when I was young. I remembered him only vaguely. He regretted it, Dad continued. He regretted letting the disagreement become more important than his daughter. The words hit hard. For several minutes nobody spoke. Then Mom quietly said something that surprised me. Aunt Shazia lives alone now. I looked up. Alone? Mom nodded. Her children work overseas. The image of the elderly woman sitting alone at the function suddenly returned to my mind. While everyone else laughed and celebrated, she had been sitting by herself. Watching. Remembering. Waiting. The next morning, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Neither could Aisha. At breakfast she finally spoke. I feel bad for her. Me too. Aisha stirred her tea. Did you notice how happy she looked when she saw family members? I nodded. Yeah. Nobody should spend 15 years feeling forgotten. For once, we completely agreed. That afternoon Aisha came into my room carrying her laptop. I have an idea. That sentence usually led to trouble. What kind of idea? She grinned. The dangerous kind. I immediately became nervous. Aisha. Hear me out. She sat down. What if we organize a family reunion? I stared at her. A family reunion? Yes. Do you know how many relatives we have? A lot. Do you know how much family drama exists? Also a lot. I shook my head. This is impossible. Aisha pointed at me. That's exactly what everyone else thinks. And maybe that's why nobody has done it. I hated when she made sense. Over the next week, our ridiculous plans slowly became real. We created group chats, contacted cousins, called uncles, messaged relatives we barely knew. At first, responses were mixed. Some people loved the idea. Others were skeptical. A few outright refused. Old disagreements still existed. But surprisingly, many family members were tired of holding grudges. One cousin wrote, "We've lost enough time already." Another said, "If Aunt Shazia is coming, I'll come too." Slowly momentum built. Even Dad became supportive. Then something unexpected happened. One evening my phone rang. The caller was Aunt Shazia. I answered immediately. "Hello?" Her voice sounded emotional. "Your sister told me what you're doing." I smiled. "We're trying." For several seconds she remained silent. Then she said something I will never forget. "I spent 15 years believing nobody wanted me around." My chest tightened. She continued, "Thank you for proving me wrong." After the call ended, I sat quietly for a long time. Sometimes people don't need money. Sometimes they don't need gifts. Sometimes they just need to know they still matter. The reunion date was finally set. 3 weeks later. More than 70 family members agreed to attend. It would be the largest gathering in decades. Everyone was excited. Everyone was nervous. And deep down, everyone wondered the same thing. Could one day really repair 15 years of distance? Or would old wounds reopen the moment everyone entered the same room? I didn't know the answer. But I was about to find out. Because the reunion day was coming. And none of us were prepared for what would happen next. 3 weeks passed faster than I expected. Before I knew it, the day of the family reunion had arrived. The event was being held at a large community hall just outside the city. My sister Aisha had spent days organizing everything. Name cards, family photos, food arrangements, games for children, a slideshow featuring old family memories. She had thought of everything. As we drove to the venue that morning, I noticed she was unusually quiet. "Nervous?" I asked. "A little." "Me too. What if nobody talks to each other? What if people start arguing? What if someone leaves?" I laughed. "Then it will still be more successful than most family gatherings." She rolled her eyes. But I could tell she was worried. Honestly, so was I. 15 years of distance couldn't be erased overnight. At least, that's what I thought. When we arrived, relatives were already gathering. Cars filled the parking lot. Children ran around excitedly. Groups of cousins chatted near the entrance. For the first hour, everything seemed normal. People greeted each other, shared food, talked about work and school. Then Aunt Shazia arrived. The room became quiet. Not completely silent, but noticeably quieter. Conversations slowed. People watched, waiting, wondering what would happen next. Aunt Shazia stepped inside carefully. She looked nervous. More nervous than anyone else. I couldn't blame her. Walking into a room filled with relatives after 15 years of separation couldn't be easy. For several long seconds, nobody moved. Then something unexpected happened. My oldest uncle walked across the room. Everyone watched. Nobody spoke. He stopped in front of Aunt Shazia. Neither of them said anything. Then he opened his arms and hugged her. A real hug. Not a polite one. Not an awkward one. The kind of hug that carried years of regret. Aunt Shazia immediately began crying. So did my uncle. Several other relatives wiped tears from their eyes. The tension that had filled the room instantly disappeared. One by one, family members approached. Handshakes became hugs. Hugs became conversations. Conversations became laughter. Within an hour, it felt like 15 years had never happened. I couldn't believe it. Neither could Aisha. She stood beside me smiling. Look at that. I nodded. Maybe people wanted this more than we realized. The day continued. Old photographs were displayed on large boards. Relatives spent hours looking at them. Every picture started another story. Every story started another conversation. Everyone seemed happy. Then Dad walked onto the small stage. He tapped the microphone. The room slowly quieted. I want to thank everyone for coming. People applauded. Dad smiled. But before lunch, there's something important I want to share. The room became curious. Dad held up an envelope. A few years before my father passed away, he gave me this letter. Immediately everyone paid attention. My grandfather Ahmed was still deeply respected within the family. Dad looked emotional. He told me to read it when the family was finally together again. The room became completely silent. Dad carefully opened the envelope. Then he began reading. My family. If you are hearing this letter, it means you are together again. If that's true, then a prayer I carried for many years has finally been answered. I made mistakes. Some very big mistakes. I allowed pride to become more important than family. I believed I was protecting our family. Instead, I helped divide it. For that, I am sorry. Especially to my daughter Shazia. If she is there today, I hope she knows I never stopped loving her. Not for a single day. Life is shorter than we think. Arguments feel important in the moment. Years later, they often seem meaningless. What matters are the people we love. Do not waste time holding on to anger. Do not wait for the perfect moment to forgive. Do not assume tomorrow is guaranteed. Choose family whenever you can. And if you are together while this letter is being read, please stay together. That would be the greatest gift you could give me. With love, Ahmed. By the time Dad finished reading, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Even some of the toughest relatives were crying. Aunt Shazia covered her face with her hands. For years she had believed her father never forgave her. Now she finally knew the truth. The room remained silent for several moments. Then Aunt Shazia slowly stood. Everyone watched. She walked to the stage, took the microphone, and spoke. I spent many years angry. Her voice trembled. I blamed people. She looked around the room. Sometimes I blamed all of you. Nobody interrupted. She continued. But the truth is, I also stayed away. Several relatives nodded. I convinced myself there was no path back. Tears filled her eyes. I was wrong. The room grew even quieter. I lost 15 years. She paused. We all did. Then she smiled. But today feels like getting them back. The applause lasted nearly a full minute. After that, everything changed. People stopped talking about old arguments. Instead, they focused on creating new memories. Children who had never met became friends. Cousins exchanged phone numbers. relatives made plans for future gatherings. The atmosphere became something special. Something none of us expected. That evening, before everyone left, we gathered for one massive family photo. More than 70 people stood together. 3 generations. Maybe 4. Everyone smiling. Everyone together. The photographer counted down. 3. I looked around. 2. I saw Aunt Shazia laughing with relatives she hadn't spoken to in years. 1. I saw my sister smiling proudly. Click. The picture was taken. At that moment, I realized something. The reunion wasn't really about fixing the past. The past couldn't be changed. Those lost years would always exist. The reunion was about making sure we didn't lose any more. As the event ended, relatives promised to stay in touch. Monthly family dinners were planned. Group chats became active. Birthdays were remembered again. Relationships slowly grew stronger. 6 months later, the changes were still happening. Family members visited each other regularly. Children played together. New traditions formed. And Aunt Shazia? She was no longer alone. Not even close. She became one of the most active members of the family. Always calling. Always checking on everyone. Always reminding people about upcoming events. One evening, months after the reunion, I sat with Aisha on our porch. We watched the sunset. You were right, I admitted. She smiled immediately. I know. I hate when you're right. I know that too. We laughed. Then I became serious. You know something? What? If you hadn't forced me to attend that engagement ceremony, none of this would have happened. She smiled. That's what sisters are for. Maybe she was right. Sometimes the moments we try hardest to avoid become the moments that change our lives. And sometimes one family function can heal wounds that have existed for decades. I never expected to learn that lesson. But I'm glad I did. Because our family finally found its way back to each other. And that was worth everything. We work hard every day to bring you the best manhwa recaps and Reddit stories for your entertainment. Creating these videos requires significant time, effort, and resources from our team. If you enjoy our content, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. Your support helps us continue creating high-quality stories and bringing you fresh content every day. Thank you for being part of our community.